Thanks for joining us. We are live on this special edition of The Spin Room, covering the dramatic and historic day in Israeli politics. Avichai Mandelblit, the Israeli Attorney General, will reportedly today, apparently very soon, inform the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, that he will be indicted subject to a hearing in the 3 criminal investigations pending against him. Netanyahu himself has tried so far to downplay this, saying this, quote, house of cards will soon collapse. I am very happy to be joined today by former Israeli Justice Minister Yossi Beilin, a candidate for the New Right Party, Bar-Yoshafat, and lawmaker from the Labor Party, Yossi Yona. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's good to see all three of you. Thank you very much. Let's first go to a report from our diplomatic correspondent, Mike Wagenheim, for a breakdown on what the Prime Minister is being indicted for, these 3 cases known widely as cases 1000, 2000, and 4000.
The hour that will change Israeli politics. Attorney General Avichai Mandelblit's announcement is imminent. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is expected to be indicted on multiple charges pending a hearing related to 3 corruption cases against him. Case 1000, Netanyahu and his wife Sarah are suspected by police of receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of gifts like champagne, jewelry, and cigars from wealthy businessmen in exchange for personal favors. Benjamin Netanyahu is accused of helping film producer and former Israeli intelligence operative Arnon Milchan advance his business interests in Israel in order to keep the shipments coming. The Netanyahus say Milchan and others were longtime friends and no favors were given as a result of what they call tokens of friendship. Case 2000, Netanyahu is accused of attempting to cut a deal with the publisher of Israeli daily Yediot Achronot. In exchange for Yediot providing more favorable coverage for Netanyahu, the premier would help curtail the distribution of the free daily Israel Hayom, published by Netanyahu supporter Sheldon Adelson. And Case 4000, Netanyahu is accused of using his role as communications minister to advance favorable regulation to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars to benefit the former head of the Bezik telecommunications giant. The controlling shareholder, Shaul Elovitch, allegedly agreed in return to publish glowing coverage of the Netanyahus on his Walla News website. Netanyahu is entitled to a hearing to try to dissuade Mandelblit from finalizing the indictments, a process that could take a year. But with elections looming on April 9th, the impact of Mandelblit's announcement will be more immediate and profound. Mike Wagenheim, I-24 News.
I want to start with you, Dr. Beilin. This could be apparently an historic day, a day that really changes everything, isn't it?
First of all, it is a precedent, a sad precedent, that a prime minister in office is going to be indicted or informed about a future indictment. Depends on a hearing. So it is not a happy day. I must tell you, when I was a Minister of Justice, the then Attorney General, Eliakim Rubinstein, decided not to open the case against Netanyahu after the investigation against him on the Ahmadi case, whatever it was. Netanyahu already was not a prime minister then, and I was so happy, really. I mean, I swear to God, I was so happy, and I was
even though you were political opponents, you were happy about it.
Exactly. Yes. So when I was interviewed, and people saw that I was happy, they said, "Why are you so happy?" Actually, all of you waited for the case to be opened against him, and I said no. I mean, the last thing I wanted that my former prime minister would be indicted on those things. So it is not false, and it is not hypocritical. It is really a sad moment.
Okay.
And somewhere I still hope that maybe this is not the case, and maybe he will be exonerated.
Ron, a sad day. Would you agree with Dr. Beilin?
Well, I'm proud to live in a democracy that every person can be sent to justice in case there's any sort of scenario that he might be indicted. I'm also very happy to live in a democracy that every person gets to have their day in court. And the fact that someone is being accused of something does not make this person guilty. And I have to say, in the last couple of days, we have rumors about Benny Gantz. I don't know if these rumors are correct. I have a feeling they're not. I don't know. I would not want people to vote or not vote for a person because of rumors. So I'm saying that now we'll have to have...
You're comparing the rumors of sexual harassment of Benny Gantz to these almost 2 years of investigations by police.
What I'm saying is that I don't think that the public needs to judge a person because people are accusing this person of certain allegations. And I'm saying that every person...
It's the police.
Well, the thing is that every person needs to have their day in court, and if you're going to judge a person before they get their trial, then I think it's very problematic for a democracy.
All right, what's your take on this, Yossi? A sad day? Maybe you agree with Dr. Balin?
Yeah, let me repeat it. Of course, it is a sad day. Nobody, no citizen in Israel should be happy that his prime minister is brought to court on such severe charges of breach of trust, fraud, bribery, and so forth and so on. So indeed, it is a sad day for all of us. However, I have full trust in the Attorney General and his impartial work there. You know, in his judicious decision, should he, probably he's going to decide indeed to bring charges against the Prime Minister. Well, and I have full trust in the judicial system of Israel, and then of course he is innocent until he's found guilty. So let the judicial system do its judicious work.
I'll let you respond to that, but before that, I want to go to our correspondent in Jerusalem, Ariel Levin-Waldman, for the latest on the story. Ariel, what can you tell us, and what are the reactions that you're hearing so far to this announcement that might come in the next hour or two from what we're hearing?
So here's what we're looking at right now. We have sources inside that they're looking to get indictments for bribery in case number 4000. That was the idea that the Prime Minister attempted to change some of the regulations in order to get more favorable coverage from Walla, which is owned by the telecoms giant Bezek in this country. There are other people, this notably coming from sources closer to the state prosecutor, claiming that they're actually looking for bribery charges in all three of the cases that they're examining right now. And we're going to have, hopefully within the next couple of hours, some sort of formal statement. There is definitely, everyone's expecting, including sources very close to the Attorney General himself, that there is going to be a move to indict. Now, this is a statement of the intention to indictment that we're expecting in the next few hours. After that, in about 3 months to 12 months, we see a formal criminal indictment. That's when the legal cases start to come up. Now, in the event of a formal criminal indictment, then we have Prime Minister Netanyahu and his lawyers are going to hold a hearing. During this hearing, his lawyers are going to attempt to pick apart any piece of the state's evidence against him, as well as the state's procedure against him, meaning any way they gathered the evidence. If they can find the slightest bit of discrepancy, they can delegitimize it and attempt to get the case thrown out. So that's the long-term legal prognosis, and there's already arguments flying back and forth. In fact, just today, on the procedural ground, the Prime Minister tried to have an injunction against the Attorney General, even trying to publish his intent to indict. So we're seeing all the full stops coming out here as the lawyers try to put things off and end this before it begins.
Okay, Ariel Levin-Waldman from Jerusalem, thank you very much for that update. Yossi, you wanted to react to that?
Yeah, I see. I mean, I think, in reaction to what my friend here said, look, I mean, we have to be here aware of the fact that we're talking about the Prime Minister, and if at the end of the day the Attorney General decides to bring charges against the Prime Minister, so we have, I mean, to recognize that there are indeed serious allegations, serious evidence, because he wouldn't dare, you know, if there would be some kind of some kind of doubt that the evidence or the facts are not sound and valid. I don't think that he would.
You don't have any doubt that the Attorney General is doing his job.
Make the right decision. I'm not accusing the Attorney General of anything wrong. I'm just saying, first of all, we have a very short-term memory. We already have a former Prime Minister that was sent to jail, and we also have a former president that was sent to jail. So I don't think it's a presidency in Israel, but I do.
He's a president or prime minister. He was not in
okay,
office.
but the fact that you have a prime minister that was already sent to jail, I just want to say that the fact that someone goes to court doesn't make him guilty.
We have to go. Okay, we have to go for a break. I'll let this discussion continue when we come back. More with my guests on this dramatic day in Israeli politics. Stick around. We're back on this special edition of the Spin Room discussing the dramatic developments regarding the legal woes of the Israeli Prime Minister. And just a quick update, the High Court here in Israel has rejected the request by the ruling Likud party to postpone the decision that is to be made by the Attorney General. So it looks like it indeed is going to happen very soon. And if indeed this is the next stage, the Prime Minister is indicted pending a hearing. What will happen next? Here's a breakdown of exactly what could follow. And we're now joined by our diplomatic correspondent, Eli Hochenberg. Thanks for coming in, Eli. Tell us a bit more about this decision by the High Court, because the Likud was saying that this is a gross interference in the electoral process.
Yes, and not for the first time. This has indeed been the line of the ruling Likud party, or Netanyahu's team, for that matter, for a long while now. This morning, the Likud party submitted perhaps a stalling tactic, if you will, another petition to hold back on this decision. As you said, the Supreme Court rejected it. Nothing that should overwhelm us. But last night, after a fresh wave of reports ahead of these decisions, the Prime Minister once again reacted to the potential accusations, saying that all the potential accusations over bribery are simply ridiculous, that there was no positive coverage on the Walla news site owned by the media mogul Shaul Alovitch as part of the so-called Case 4000, saying that everything was approved, of course, by all those who had to be involved in the process. The very end of it, this house of cards, Netanyahu was saying, will soon collapse. Again, nothing groundbreaking, nothing that we haven't heard before, but perhaps the most interesting part of what's going to happen is the political maneuverability that Netanyahu will have, and he has some leeway here. Yeah, it's not over.
Dr. Balin, as we saw in that report before, it seems like the wheels of justice here are going to, really turn very, very slowly. Why is it so slow? I mean, we're only talking about a decision.
Netanyahu will say it's going
that's also true. We're only talking about a decision about indictment, a final decision, maybe in the summer. And if, for example, this goes to court, it could be a year or two after that. And if he has to go to jail, we're talking about way, 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 way down the line.
The prosecution should be very, very sensitive and very careful in such a case. We are saying it is the Buzaglo case, meaning that there is no difference between a prime minister or president and the man in the street or the woman in the street. But this is not true. In the case of a prime minister, you are much, much more careful than in the average case. First of all, the prosecution goes with the police, and the whole inquiry, the investigation is done together, which is not the usual case. You need a special approval of the Attorney General in order to investigate the Prime Minister or Minister, and so it by definition it is slower than the usual case. And I don't believe that it was right to say that the Attorney General was not quick enough. The only point that was unique in this case was that he decided to take the three cases together and not to finish one of them and then to indict or to decide not to indict. You know, I'm not a lawyer.
You're a former justice minister.
Yeah, but I was a president, not anymore.
Okay.
But I can tell you that I can understand his decision because there were kind of relations or even interdependency between the cases. On the other hand, it took much more time than dealing with just one of them and deciding upon it. So it's both ways, but the general way I would say that we can understand that we are speaking about a very serious Attorney General. And the fact that he was so close to the Prime Minister or that he's coming from a family of Likud or whatever has nothing to do. It is not only that when you are nominated as a judge, you forget about your origin or whatever. It is also when you are a prosecutor.
Ron, you're running as part of the New Right Party. Will your party have any problem sitting with a Prime Minister with this cloud over his head? As I mentioned before, this is pending a hearing. This is an Attorney General who is warning the Prime Minister, I am going to indict you.
So as an attorney, you know, we'll never sign a contract without reading it. So first of all, right now, we are recommending Netanyahu as the next Prime Minister. We don't know what will happen in the next number of days, and depending on that, we will have to maybe think of a better solution. But right now, yes, we are recommending Netanyahu to be the next Prime Minister.
You have an update?
Yeah, the Likud party is responding to the Supreme Court rejecting its petition. It is upsetting that the Supreme Court did not prevent the left from intervening, blunt interference in the elections. The Supreme Court itself decided a while ago, dealing with an issue of Minister Tzachi Hanegbi, that you need to avoid publishing decisions of the Attorney General during campaign season. So this is what the Likud is saying.
Well, it takes a bit of a chutzpah here, you know, pressing these charges, because there is some kind of a sad irony in all this case. We're all aware that the Prime Minister Netanyahu wanted an earlier elections so that he would avoid the situation whereby the Attorney General going to come up with an indictment. Now he's not happy about that, you know, so it is some kind of irony goes on here that, you know, let's borrow some kind of notion from sociology, the unintended consequences of human action. You know, so he hoped that he would be able to postpone, right, the indictment after the election.
No doubt.
Exactly. And that would benefit him in the elections. So as it happened, the surprise, the Attorney General decided that he is going to indict him before the election. So, well, you play the game, accept the rules of the game.
There is a very positive point here, by the way.
Go ahead.
I mean, people say, where is the left? There is no left anymore. It is only right. I mean, we didn't...
But the left is behind so many things.
Now, I'm hearing every day so much about the left. The left is behind Noam Solberg. Can you imagine? The judge Noam Solberg. Those who know who he is may raise a brow when they hear it. The left is behind they are pushing the Attorney General and all of them. The media, everything is the left.
Let Ron respond. Go ahead.
Sorry, with all due respect, you just said that once a person
Don't take
becomes...
it for me. I'm so glad to hear about our power.
Great.
Please.
But you just said that once a person becomes a judge and all of his political views are behind, but if it's a right-wing judge, he's a right-wing judge. So let's be coherent about this. Now, if people are saying that there's no political issue, of course there's a political issue about this, and the fact that you're saying that it's okay for the Attorney General to change the dates and that's not political, that's going to make the Israeli public care less.
He did not change it. It is Netanyahu who changed the date of the elections.
But you understand that the timing is crucial. I think that the viewers, many of them are, I'm assuming, Americans. We have a different political system. We're a parliamentary system, and we don't have a vice president, meaning if you take down the Prime Minister, you took down the government. If you're going to indict the Prime Minister right before the election, you're going to change the election. So to say it's not political, I think it's either being naive or being unfair. And regarding the left, the fact that you call a new party blue and white, you know, number number, the first person on the list was pro the disengagement, the second was against the disengagement, but still you're talking about a left-wing party, so of course there's left in Israel.
I want to drill down a little into the specific cases themselves. To start with 4,000, which seems like the more serious one. Netanyahu there is suspected of providing regulatory concessions to Shaul Elovich, the controlling shareholder of Bezeq Telecommunications, in exchange for favorable coverage from Bezek's news website Walla. In this case, Mandelblit is expected to announce an indictment for bribery as well as fraud and breach of trust. And Netanyahu said yesterday that the accusations of corruption are absurd. The Prime Minister didn't give to or receive anything from Elovich. Dr. Balin, do you believe that there's enough evidence in this case? I mean, will the Attorney General be able to prove that the Prime Minister was willing to give these benefits to Elovich for positive coverage?
You know, it was quite a transparent process, not the details perhaps, but the mere fact that they are sitting now 2 weeks with the whole group, then 2 years with some of them. I don't remember such a case in which so much effort was invested in such cases. I presume that the Attorney General did whatever he could in order not to indict somebody like the Prime Minister without a basis. It doesn't mean that necessarily Netanyahu is going to court and is going to lose and to sit in jail. But it means that it is more than 50%.
The Prime Minister's defenders, Yossi, say that it's really ridiculous that for a few positive articles on a website, the Prime Minister is willing to pay benefits to this tycoon worth millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. The quid pro quo seems a bit off here.
Well, I'm not an expert in that, and I did not conduct a meticulous investigation into the evidence and the fact. All I want to say is that I have full trust in the Attorney General and the judicial system here in Israel, and I have done impartial, judicious work, compiling all the evidence and the facts, and I take it face value. I mean, if the system, if the Attorney General and the police and other legal experts working on behalf of the state saying that there is a clear case for indictment, so for me it is enough. It's very, very simple as that. I don't think that we here supposed to conduct some kind of investigation and weigh the relative force of the evidence or the facts. We just have to have trust in the judicial.
A conflict of interest when we're talking about a Prime Minister is very challenging, legally speaking, and you gentlemen have more knowledge on that than me. But the Prime Minister is in a situation, a constant situation of conflict of interest, by the mere fact that he's Prime Minister. So I think that this is perhaps a challenging part in those cases.
Of course, but the thing is, my friend here, Yossi, was saying before, there is indeed a large risk, you know, bringing indictment against the Prime Minister. And even despite of all this consideration of sensibility having to do with the very fact we're talking about the Prime Minister, I am very sure that they went into a lot of this kind of meticulous investigation, serious discussions, and only, and let me say this, only when they have assessed the facts and the evidence and they believed there is high chances for guilty verdict, they went on with this.
And the Prime Minister made a big mistake, in my view, that he put as Attorney General somebody so close to him, because he doesn't have an excuse.
Oh, you have to remember that the Prime Minister nominates the Attorney General based on a committee. They give them 3 names. They have to choose one. I just want to say one thing. I have faith in the system, not accusing the legal system, but it's very naive to say it's all powerful and doesn't have any agenda. Right now, the Minister Shaked is being accused of nominating conservative judges. Okay, all of a sudden, some people on the left are not happy with the verdicts of the Supreme Court. So, does it matter that he's a friend of Netanyahu or not? I don't think
She's not accused. That's what she said.
A lot of people.
No, that's what she said. I'm nominating conservative and religious judges.
So you're saying that the Supreme Court does have an agenda. He's not leaving their background once they become judges.
That's what she said. I don't know. I believe that once they are becoming
so let's just be coherent. Is there political issues with the judicial branch or not?
Biases.
They do have human biases, of course. So the timing is relevant, and we need to take some consideration.
We have to go for another break, and when we come back, more on the major developments regarding the impending indictments against the Israeli Prime Minister and 3 different corruption cases. We'll be right back. Stick around.